12 gauge now whipping.
All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing again on this Sunday? My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. As you can tell, I'm wearing my Chicago Bears jersey. My boys pulled it out last night, even though I'm going to be honest with you. I really didn't think they had anything going on in the game. I really didn't. I thought, at the end of the third quarter, I even told a friend of mine, I said, look, I'm going to bed, man. They ain't got a defense. They ain't got an offense going on. The Packers seem to be too much for us. I'm not going to have it. I can't watch this. And you can call me a poor sport if you like, but you know what? When your team is playing that bad, it's hard to sit there and watch, especially whenever it's against a division rival that you've had struggled with over and over and over. You know, so I'm glad I woke up this morning to a different outcome. It seemed that we were able to pull it off. I don't know if you guys are sports fans, but if you are, you understand what I'm talking about. So, as it turns out, we won in overtime. There's a lot of football games going on. The end of the season is coming up. We're about to get in playoff time. I don't know if you guys are into college football, but if you are and your team happens to be one of those that is vying for a playoff spot in the national championship, good luck. I'm a Texas Longhorns fan. And the Longhorns really they did okay, but I think they hurt themselves whenever they played Florida and they were unable to get anything done. Anything. Today I just wanted to get on here and mostly just try out my new camera. Um, Wanted to try it out, see exactly the difference making it makes compared to some of the other cameras that I've had in the past. I I noticed that it has a full body shot now, where before it was only capturing about this much, and it would making my head this much. Hey Jeff H, how you doing, buddy? You know, also I wanted to talk about the Christmas spirit because, as you know, we're 4 days from Christmas. And this is the best time of the year for a lot of people. A lot of people have some great change of life experiences because we can sit here and we can talk about the negativity. We can talk about the bills and the lack of and whatever. And I'll get there. There's plenty of time for that. But I just want to talk about some positive stuff, because whenever you're having Christmas dilemma, everybody feels it. It actually starts in Thanksgiving, whenever we're we're meeting with families. Wow. Hope you didn't just see me pick my nose in 4K, Anyways, if you did, you did. Sorry about that. But it was just bugging me, bro. It actually starts in Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a time when many people start to worry about what they have and what they don't have. Well, one of the things that I notice a lot of times when it comes to Thanksgiving is it's many people start comparing themselves to other people in society. And when this happens, you get a lot of things that otherwise would not be at the surface level. Let's take for instance, in Thanksgiving when you're going to hang out with the family, maybe you have issues with your family and you haven't really been at the best of what's the word? My mind just went blank. Maybe you haven't been the best of relations with them. Maybe you have had words with them and you're going to go to Thanksgiving. I'm not going if so and so's there. I'm not going if so and so's there. So therefore, you miss out on being part of the family because you have somebody that's not going to be there or that's going to be there that you really don't want to see. So when that happens, most of the time you just kind of bow out. And I don't know if any of you have ever been the black sheep of the family, but if you have, you understand what I'm talking about. There are many times when people have these times in their lives where they don't want to deal with the judgment, the dispositions of their family, and how they talk about them, either behind the scenes or even to their face. So instead of going home for the holidays, they spend it elsewhere with their extended families, whether those people are called friends, whether those people are called coworkers, whether those people are called different types of things. There's nothing wrong with that. Family can be anything you want it to be, and it can mean exactly what you want it to be. So think about that a little bit. The next time that you're not feeling very spirited about the holidays, or maybe you had some kind of loss happen during the holidays that reminds you that, you know, this person's no longer here. It's always a good thing to find some kind of support in which you can talk to a person, you can have some kind of meeting with somebody that, instead of dwelling on the fact that the person no longer here, maybe you can talk to them about the memories and joy that you did have about the individual that is no longer here. Because sometimes the memory of the individual that we miss the most is the thing that brings the dopamine release, which makes us feel better even though we're missing the person. Because oftentimes we don't have anybody to talk to during these holiday seasons. And one thing that I've noticed about individuals during the holidays, not only the holidays, but all other times of the year, is we're very isolated these days. We're very technological. We would rather text than make a phone call. We would rather just send anything that is um, that you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't see. Sometimes we get birthday cards that are nothing more than a text message and a gift. And by a gift, I mean just a little funny thing. And you say, well, that's what it is like in 2025. Well, I understand that. I totally get that. I get that 1,000,000%. I'm not talking about that as being a bad situation or not good enough or anything like that. I don't want you to think like that. I'm talking about being personable. When you're able to engage with the individual face to face, when you're able to engage with the individual without having to have something else in between you to dictate your communication, to dictate your your lack of being close. Because, I believe in this society that we live in today, that is what is missing a lot more times than anything. It's the closeness, the trust that we have with other people. In our society, we lack trust in other people, not only in other people's motives, but in other people's actions, what their intent. But think about that a little bit. If you are constantly looking for the other shoe to fall off, or let's say you're constantly looking for this individual to hurt you, well, guess what? This individual is going to fulfill your self fulfilling prophecy, not because they were going to hurt you to begin with, but because by actions and everything else, how could it be anything different? I hope everything coming in clear. Hope everything coming in 4K. Like I said, I just wanted to get on here to really test out my new camera that I got for myself. Sometimes I do just splurge and give myself some gifts. It's part of being and doing that self care. The holiday season is a time for reflection because January 1st or the 31st is not far off. So we always want to have that. Well, when the new year comes, new year, new me. But why wait till the new year for it to be a new you? Oftentimes, why isn't that new you a part of your daily living so that once the new year gets here, it's not really a new you. It's a continued maintenance of the new you that you created a long time ago. And many people don't believe in that until the new year, but it's harder to get started cold turkey than it is to have that momentum going. I'm really liking this view because I believe that the other view wasn't giving me credence. I mean, you can say, whoa, you're a big body. Well, say what you will. The jersey is 3X, so it fits me kind of big. But I enjoy it. I enjoy it. And I enjoy doing these live because in my new position in life, I do classes, but I don't get to discuss the humanity of people as much as I used to when I was working with adults. When I was working with adults, I would be able to talk about anything and everything regarding society and everything that you wanted to discuss, whether it was moving on with your life, whether it was a fresh start, whether it was something that could benefit you, overcoming the criminal code. And that's one of the reasons why my channel was called 12 Gauge Investigative, is because I investigate and moving on and a lot of the things that we cover on the channel. And one of those things is perception. Perception is 90% of what one person views as being their truth. And when it comes to perception, oftentimes perceptions are what drives realities. And it's hard to challenge somebody's perception when they believe without the benefit of everything that's going on, when you can't change their mind about anything, regardless of whatever you bring to the table, you're not going to change their perception of the situation. And that is a hard pill to swallow for some people. Just like I'm talking about the holidays and about the families and going to your family's home. You can't change somebody else's perception of who you are or what they think you're about, especially if they haven't really seen your progress and growth. Now, if they haven't seen you since last Christmas and you show up and you're different and they can tell, then they're going to be able to say, hey, this person's been working on themselves. They are different. Hey, April, they'll be able to say they are different. But other than that, you're going to get the same perception from people that you've always gotten, unless they are really in tune with your progression in life. I hopped on here, April, because I just got me a new camera and I thought I'd test it out. So while I hooked it up and went live, I thought, why not do it live, right? Stupid cat tree is too small. I put it in my bedroom, ordered another. Hey, I've totally been there. I've totally been there. I've I've ordered parts that were just not right, or I've ordered something expecting a huge screened object and it comes this little. I get it. I hope you get the right one this next time. I really do. But I'm talking about perception and how people really have the perception of someone else based on somebody's pattern in life, somebody's past, not necessarily who they are today, but who they saw the last time that they were around them. You don't think that you don't think that sometimes we get a bad rap whenever somebody who hasn't been around us still thinks we're the same person because they haven't seen what we've been doing for ourselves. They haven't seen how we've stopped manipulating, how we stopped lying to people, how we stopped harming ourselves and actually taken up the ability to treat ourselves better. So usually if people do see you starting to do that, then they're going to take an interest in you and say, well, you know what? This person might be doing something different. There is something called detachment with love. This means that you're able to detach yourself from the closeness of this person, but still love them from a distance. A lot of times people think, I got to cut this person off completely. Otherwise, I can't love them. I can't love them and get hurt at the same time. Well, detachment with love means that you can still love them, but set that boundary and detach and love them from afar because sometimes people need time to reflect on um, on what they've done to other people. It's really a real thing. It's hard. It's hard to detach from people that hurt you. It really is because they give you all the reasons why they've done what they've done to you. And I'm glad you get it, April. I'm glad you get it. And we have to, in order to, for the sake of our sanity, for the sake of our realities, we have to detach because sometimes it's too much. Sometimes that hurt, that pain, it's just too much. And it's really detrimental to our overall well being. I totally get it. I totally get what you're talking about. And the truth of the truth of the matter is too, April, since I'm talking to you one on one, you get the one on one treatment today. Um, the truth of the matter is, if people have to detach from me, because at one particular point in life, I wasn't always who I am today. I wasn't responsible. I wasn't a giver. I wasn't any of that. I was a manipulator. I was a taker. I did I did the most because I was at a point in my life in my addiction where I was pretty sick. But over time, I was able to repair those bridges because the people that did detach from me, they were the wake up call that I needed to see in order to get better. Hey, PKC, thank you for being here. You know, it's not always that we see that we're hurting people. Sometimes we're so caught up in our own stuff that we don't even understand that we're hurting people. We think that we're doing it just hurting ourselves. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Well, I hurt myself worse than I could ever hurt anybody else. But at the same time, there is somebody that loves you. There is somebody that cares about you, that you're hurting, that they're telling you, hey, stop doing this. Stop doing this. You're hurting me. But at the same time, the person's like, no, I'm just hurting myself. No. Your words hurt me. Your actions hurt me. The inconsistencies hurt me. You know, all this stuff. Sometimes you have to detach in order to get better. And it's a hard process to deal with, but it's something that you can work on. And I got this as a gift just at one of our Christmas functions. See, that's what I like about this camera too. You can actually see more stuff that I'm showing you. It says, be still. I love that. Be still and know that I am God. And I'm not trying to make this religious, but that's what the verse says, you know? And sometimes that's all we need to do is just pump the brakes and be still. And not worry so much about other people, but at that moment say, hey, I need to worry about me a little bit. And during these holidays, it's hard for people to do that. It really is. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You know, there's been times when I've been on top of the mountain and now I'm probably at the middle of the mountain, you know? And you have to understand that either way, it's just fine. I only have a couple of friends, that's fine with me. Hold on a second, guys. I have somebody calling me. Hello?
Hello.
We got the speaker, look at your water and see if you can get the
Yeah, 'cause
water.
it says it's all working down
We
there.
got the,
Okay. I'm on the computer, so that's cool.
I told you.
All right. I'm back. So, you know, when it comes to that, it is understandable that there are times when you have to detach. There's times that you have to do some self-care. There's times that you have to understand that life is really not as serious as we make it. But we also have to take care of ourselves, and we have to take care of the things that really give us life energy. So, since I'm talking about these type of things, and we're talking about the holidays, there are times whenever during these holidays that we don't always get along with people. We don't always understand their motives or their intent or their words a lot of times. You know, so when that happens, it harms everybody in the process. It really does. It harms people in the process because we think, why did they say that? What did they mean? Why do I feel this way? Why am I not as special as I once was? Or vice versa. So think about that whenever you gather this holiday season and try to be aware that not everything is a setup. Not everything is a setup for you to hurt.
Because it's not hard as
Not everything is a setup. Sometimes it is just, it is what it is. And when that happens, you can ask yourself, you can say, hey, am I looking at this through the glass half full? Or am I looking at this at the glass half empty? Because the way we look at life tells a lot about our outcome of what we want to see. And I hope this is making sense to you. I really do. How much do I weigh? I'm a big guy. I'm a big guy. Well, thanks for the kind comment. I think it's held me up to about 20 or 30 lives. I think it'll be all right. But I'm not a short dude either, so it's not like I'm all body weight, but thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyways, like I was saying, as far as perception, that is a perception right there. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. At least one thing can come out positive, right? You know, yeah, the way we look at life has a lot to do with how we feel mentally and physically. It really, you've made me laugh, Chet. Thank you for that, man. I don't take, that is hilarious. But the way we look at life does have a lot to do with how we react to it. Because sometimes we think that, why did they say that? Why did they attack me like that? Chet just gave me a great example. He said, "Oh my God, how much do you weigh? Your chair will collapse soon." That's just an observation. But if he was really here with me, he would see that I'm really not as wide as the camera portrays. I really, it's hilarious. But thank you for a perfect example. If we feel good mentally and physically, we can accomplish anything. The outlook is great. That is so true. That is so true. Because sometimes our outlook in life can change at the split of the moment. We can be in a bad sense or a bad frame of mind. Next thing you know, we say, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing this to myself? One thing that I hope that I get across to people, and not only have I said this in the true crime live that I do, is that question right there, why, will never have an answer. It'll never have an answer. If you ask why, it'll never have an answer that will be enough for you to accept. That's so when people ask, well, why do you do this or why do you do that? Well, most of the time we don't know. And when we give them an answer, most of the time it's not good enough for them because they've already created an answer in their head. So I don't like asking why to people. What, when, where, how. Those are some questions that you can ask, not only yourself, but you can ask other people. What makes you say that? What makes you talk to me that way? What makes you react to what I'm saying that way? It's making perfect sense. It's really making perfect sense. Yeah. It's kind of like that bouncing off the wall thing. Whatever you say positive, hopefully will come back positive to you eventually. If you look at life negative all the time, you're never going to see anything good, or you're going to play the victim. And sometimes we have family members that do play that victim role. They have nothing good that ever happens for them. And they're always wondering why. Well, it's not necessarily why. as much as what and who and how. Because when you can find answers to those questions, that gives you a good start. I'm sorry, Chet made me laugh. I don't know. That was funny to me. Any other time I'd be offended, but it kind of gave me a perfect example as to what I'm talking about. Um, you know, this Christmas holiday, I hope that you you do have an understanding for yourself that whatever it is that you want to be grace in your life, that it is exactly what it is that you want it to be. That it's not going to be specified by a gift. That it's not going to be specified by money. That it's not going to be specified by anything that has to do with the exterior, but what's within their heart. There's a lot of people that are having health problems during the holidays. There's a lot of people that have health problems on a daily basis. And you really don't realize how bad others have it until you talk to some of these people and you realize exactly your life could be much worse. It really could. It really could. We all have that time in our lives when we have that poor me, that why me? What did I do to deserve this? But I can tell you, maybe you didn't do anything. Maybe it is life being exactly what life is supposed to be. Life is half of how we perceive it and the other half on how we react to it. And I hope that you know that because the half that we react on can make that perception of how we see it much worse or much better. And I hope this is making sense to you guys because I'm really just talking on the fly. I don't have a script that I'm reading off of or anything like that. I just want to give a little hope to anybody that's out there that's struggling, because there are lots of people that are struggling right now. And I hate the thought that there are people struggling that don't understand that there are actually people who they don't know that are praying for them, that are hoping good things for them. Because not everybody in this world is an evil minded person. There are some people in this world that actually have good intent for others, no matter what they've done. One question people, I'm going to lean back and go, oh my God, that chair's going to break. It's not going to break. But like I was telling you at the very beginning, I used to work with adults who were in the criminal justice system. And people used to ask me, well, how can you work with convicts? How can you work with sex offenders? How can you work with people that rape other people or hurt people? And how can you believe that they'll ever change? And that question always used to haunt me a little bit because honestly, I didn't know the answer right off the bat when I first started. It took a while before I got to the point where I could actually answer that question and say, well, you know what? I work with these people because they deserve a second chance. Who am I to say that because of what you did, you don't deserve something better down the line? Especially if they've been to prison for multitudes of time. Hold on a second, I'm getting a phone call. Okay. Sorry about that. Like I said, I don't go live a lot nowadays, but when I have, there's always something happening. So, anyways, that's another perfect example. My parents and I, we have really never had much of a relationship when I was growing up. I didn't have a good relationship with my father. Um, it took until me being an adult for me to honestly start not seeing so much what I wanted to see, but actually see life through his eyes, trying to understand him as a person, as my father, not as an enemy that I always saw. Was he a good person all the time? No. Was I? No. And that's the one thing that I've learned as a therapist is people deserve a second chance. They deserve a third chance sometimes. But you know what? At the same time as them deserving this chance, there has to be accountability that is placed upon them. Just like it is with anybody else. You don't let normal people off the hook without telling them, hey, if I'm going to loan you this $20, you need to pay me 20 back. That's setting a boundary. That's holding them accountable. So holding people accountable that maybe you may or may not have gotten along with is nothing more than what people do on a daily basis. And you don't have to be mean about it. The other day, I'm full of stories because I work with the public. So I see a lot of stuff. The other day, we were handing out gifts for the Angel Tree at the Salvation Army. Um, and the kids were giving this lady her gifts. And she was less than pleasant. But you know what? Our kids handled it with grace. They didn't say anything smart. They didn't smart off or be mean or anything like that. They said thank you and Merry Christmas. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you act that shows other people, hey, I want to be like that person. I want to act like that person. I want to take life like that person. Because it's not always about anger. It's not always about strife. It's not always about retaliation. Sometimes it's nothing more than grace. And it's hard to be graceful to people that are mean, that are arrogant, that are just wanting nothing but a fight. It's hard. But what's the alternative? It doesn't mean you're weak. A lot of times people think the meek are the weak. And that's not true. A lot of times the people that can turn the other corner and actually see more positivity in life, they have a lot more going for them. But at the same time, the ones that are always angry, the ones that are always full of sarcasm or snarkiness or all this other stuff, there's a reason that it's like that. And if you're really looking deep down, you understand that those individuals are unhappy in some particular part of their lives, whatever that might be. We're all unhappy in one point in our lives. We really are. There's times when I wake up and I'm like, today's not the day. Something hurts. Something aches. Isn't that funny? The older we get, the more creaks and pain and unknown entities in our lives that just like, how did that happen? Why does my back hurt on that side? Why is my knee hurting today? It didn't hurt yesterday. So at those moments when you have to be kind to yourself and say, look, I can make my day worse by complaining about this, or I can do the best I can with what I have. And I have to remind myself that I am not one of those perfectionists, or I am not one of those people that is perfect at what I'm talking about. I have to work at this. It's a work in progress. It's not easy to wake up and be like, oh my God, my back feels like it's 3 feet to the left. Yeah, I hate getting old too. But it's better than the alternative at this point, you know? And I say, well, you know what? I'm going to do the best with what I got. And get up, stretch a little bit, go to the gym, do what I need to do, and let's move on with the day. You know, because I'm one of those people that played football my whole life. I've been an athlete my whole life. And, you know, I know a lot of the stuff that hurts right now with me is due to all those collisions and everything that I did to myself when I was younger. And as I've always done through life, the more I hurt, the more I stretch. Because the more I stretch, it seems to, if anything, just take my mind off of it. You know what I mean? So I do that just to do some self care. And it works. It works sometimes. It really does. Yes. Yes, it does. But you couldn't tell us anything when we were younger, could you, April? You couldn't. You couldn't tell us, hey, one day if you continue doing that, you're going to wake up hurting, you're going to wake up doing this, you're going to wake up doing that. You couldn't have told us anything. Would have been like, yeah, whatever, whatever. Let me do it some more. Let me do it some more. But you know what? People ask me all the time, would you do it again? Would you go back and do it again? I would. I'd have no regrets. I really, as different as my life has been in different seasons, I would go back and do it all over again. You know, kind of like that Garth Brooks song, "The Dance." That's what I would do. You know, if I would have never done what I did, then I would have missed the dance. The dance would be growing older. That was my senior song in 1991. And as an 18-year-old kid in 1991, I thought when that song was playing, my first thought was, I hate country music. Why did they choose this dumb song? Number two is, what this dude talking about? I would have never taken the chance I would have had to miss the dance. I was like, man, no, I'm into gangster rap and all that other stuff. It was just hitting, it just popping off, Tupac, all that stuff. I was all into that. So this dude singing about the dance and about life and all about looking back and all this stuff, you know, at 18 years old, you're not looking about life when you're 30, 40, 50 years old. You're looking at life through an 18-year-old's eyes, which is right there in front of your face at that very moment. And that's all you see. Sometimes you see tomorrow, sometimes you don't. But most of the time, you don't care enough about tomorrow because it's always about the moment now. 1992, all right. Forever Young. Man, that song is like popular on TikTok, and all the videos that they put attached to that song are just amazing. I know that song. Yeah. Forever Young. Yeah. I want to be forever young. I don't know. Like, you know, looking back at time, I don't know about you, April, but I've had people tell me multitudes of times throughout my lives Slow down. Enjoy the moment. Cherish your families. Love those that hurt you. And love those that love you with the same eyes. And you know, when you're listening to that, you think, how can I love those that hurt me? The same as I would love somebody that loves me. How does that make any damn sense at all? And, you know, now that I'm older, I do understand that now. I do get that. Grace is a wonderful thing. Sometimes being cognitive enough to say, I need to chill out a minute. Now that's a different thing. Because Gen X, we have that fight first, ask questions later. I don't know if any of you Gen Xers are out there that are going to want this, but if you are a Gen Xer or even a millennial, I guess that's the next one after Gen X, you understand what I'm talking about. Fight first, ask questions later. And we're never gonna succeed. We're gonna always fight for what we believe. And that's a hard thing to get out of your mind when you're programmed that you're not weak, suck it up, get through it. And I'm glad that I learned that in life, because there's been some points in life when I just wanted to quit. And I even get mad at myself at this point in life, because you start to get programmed by the things that you see and you hear around you. And sometimes I find myself saying, oh no, play the victim, do this, do that. And I have to tell myself, stop it. You're a fighter, not a victim. You're a survivor, not a victim. And that has gotten me through a lot of times in my life. It really has. Yeah, it's not weakness, it's strength. You're right. And I'm really glad that I finally outgrew the anger that drove me. Because for a lot of years, anger was the definition of my existence. It really was. I still have my moments, but people confuse boundaries and assertiveness these days for anger and aggressiveness. But it's still there. It's just different. Nobody's ever seen me angry on camera. They've seen me aggressive. No. It's always been assertive. It's always been setting a boundary. But sometimes people can't take that, or they confuse one for the other, which is okay. You know, one thing about technology that I don't like, for one reason or another, we believe that the person we are on this camera has to be the same person we are in society. That's a good thought right there. That's a good thought. A lot of men show depression with anger. A hell of a thought right there. That is a good thought. And that is true. We've always been told not to talk about our feelings because it shows weakness. Don't discuss your next move because people will know what your weakness is. Well, you know what? When you make your own identity, you make your own rules, and you stop following the status quo, and you start defining your life as you want it to be, not as you want the world to define it for you. Hey, Common Sense, welcome back. You know, I can remember growing up, looking under the Christmas tree and it was full. I mean, I'm talking halfway up the tree with gifts all the way around it. My mom and dad went beyond and above getting us gifts. And they did it with my nieces and nephews. But one thing that as they became grandparents, is they have this understanding that it's not about the gift, but it's about who you are as a person receiving it. I was watching this, let me see if I can find it on TikTok. I'm going to show it with you guys. And this is some of today's kids. I don't think they're really. Let me type it in here. Kids. I'm grateful. I saw this the other day. I was like, you know what? It's hard for me there's no way I could just sit there and watch that. Let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. And y'all let me know what you think about it, because like I'm saying, I'm a Gen X. So being a Generation X, had this ever happened in my household, you'd be lucky to get a Christmas again, much less how they're acting. Check this out.
Bro, hey, come here, man. Come here. Hey! Bro, get up, bro, go outside! Ay, Dios mío, carbón. Ay, carbón. Ay, carbón.
Hold on. So there's two. You saw one throw the PS4 against the door. This one was stomping on, or the one before this was stomping on the bag, throwing a fit. Now look at this one. This one is just mad.
This not what I wanted.
This one right here.
I wanted a Samsung, bro. Hey! Hey! Why y'all always doing this, bro? Every year y'all do this. I don't want no.
He stepped on that TV because he wanted a Samsung TV. He don't want the Hisense TV. And these are the kids that, I'm sure there's kids like this that are going to be doing this on Christmas. Can you imagine? Little kids.
Why?
Gucci bag.
What you mean?
Girl, you know I need a Gucci bag. Why you got me in your little purse? I need a Gucci bag. What no? Color pencils? No.
It's for school.
This?
Don't do that. No, don't do that. Hey,
I don't want this.
What? Bro, hey, come here, man. Come here. Hey! Bro, get it!
Yeah, that's the same one we just saw. Think about that a minute.
¿Qué es esto?
¿Es un teléfono?
¿Qué es Samsung? Yo quería iPhone 13.
No seas malagradecida.
Bro, hey, come here, man. Come here. Hey!
I think they wouldn't have got Christmas forever.
Gucci bag.
What you mean?
Girl, you know I need a Gucci bag. Why you got me in your little purse? I need a Gucci bag. Why do I always get slow? Oh wow, I'm going to Paris. Yippee.
What do you want?
This is not what I asked for.
What did you ask for? You always so ungrateful.
This is not what I asked for.
You got orange Timbs. What's the problem with them?
Look what I asked for.
Yeah, baby.
I am not a parrot.
Oh my gosh, girl.
I am not a parrot. I don't need a baby.
You don't want a baby?
No.
It's a Westy J.
Oh, he's mad. He's stupid. He's mad.
That is, man, that is too much. That is too much.
Hey.
You gotta
Give me no Gucci bag.
That is just too much. Can you imagine? If I acted like that at any gift I opened, that would be it. Here, this is 90s Christmas morning compared to today.
This is for both of you. From us.
That shows it right there. That is so true. 90s compared to today. Says parents and grandparents work hard to give their family a good Christmas. Right. Perhaps these parents need to remind the kid the reason for the season. Exactly. My grandchildren would never have done that. I don't know why they thought that they could do something like that. That's just terrible. That is just terrible, man. I think I clicked on the wrong one. Hold on. It's this one. Yeah, this is the right one. That is just terrible. Terrible to think that because you didn't get what you wanted, you're going to throw a fit. I'd be like, okay. You know how much Legos are today? A little box. I'm talking about a little box. I'm not even talking about a big old box of Legos. I'm talking about the little boxes of Legos are tiny. They're like $45 to $50. And I'm talking about the little bitty boxes. Now, if you get the bigger the boxes, it goes up in price. It is outrageous. You know, it's hard to get a good gift for under $25, $30. It's hard. It's hard to get a good gift at that price. It really is. You know, so, man, I can't imagine, you know, you trying to say, well, are we going to get groceries? Are we going to pay the electric bill? Or am I going to get the biggest box of Legos that I can? Am I going to have to go get a payday loan? What's going to take for me to get a good Christmas? And then the kids throw a fit like that. Thank you so much, Common Sense. Thank you so much. You know, and then they throw a fit like that. You made a decision on what you were going to get for them, and then they throw a fit in front of the family. I'm not saying all kids do this, but we just saw some kids that did. And I don't know if you've ever seen that at your Christmases. I haven't seen it. Hell, if you don't like my gift, don't tell me in front. Run off later on, tell your brothers and sisters, whatever. Don't tell it in front of me. Don't tell me you hated your gift. Because, man, nothing hurts worse than seeing something that you worked hard for and they didn't like it. You know what's terrible about Christmas, too? I don't know if you guys are like this, but I always feel like one gift, two gifts, three gifts is not enough. No matter what they are, whatever gifts I get, I always feel like those are not enough. So I have to go and get 6, 7, 8. You know what I mean? And it's like a battle of within. Because one gift should be enough, especially if it's a higher price gift. It should be enough. And I think it's because of some of the Christmases that I was just discussing. Some of the Christmases I grew up in, the tree was halfway up the tree, there was gifts. There was all kinds of, there was never a gift that I didn't want. You know, as a kid, you always get socks, undergarments, you know, dress shirts, jeans, whatever. You always get that. That was a basic. We always knew we were going to get that somewhere. But then when you get beyond the clothing and you start to find exactly what you asked for, then you're like, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I get that. This year, I'm only getting one gift per family member. Because I don't know about you guys, but the price of food, that's kind of limited into the Christmas money. Not the price of gas so much, but the price of food. And everything else around has limited the Christmas fund. You know, last year, I got gift cards. I got all kinds of different stuff. But this year, just one gift. And I mean, my family is not like that. They're not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what you got me. You know what I mean? But there are some families where the kids are going to open up those gifts on Christmas morning and they're going to be angry. Angry at what? You know what's terrible, though, is when you have family members that have birthdays in Christmas or in December or November. Man, they luck out, but you know, think about having a birthday in December. I don't know if any of you have birthdays in December, but if you have a birthday in December, some of you may have had to share Christmas with your birthday. So you may have got a lot on your birthday, but got very little at Christmas. I mean, I'm thankful my birthday is in September, but I can't imagine. There you go, April. There you go. She says, my son's birthday is the 27th. He hates it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have a birthday in December, man, sometimes you have to share that birthday with Christmas and be like, man, I can't believe this. So, yeah. So that's another thing about Christmas that many people really don't like. Especially if you have a birthday close to Christmas or before Christmas, because you say, okay, what is it? You want a good birthday gift or do you want a big Christmas? Which one is it? Well, I guess I want a big Christmas. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. The holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving, they're nice, but those weren't my holiday. My holiday was New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve was my holiday. And it still is to an extent, other than I don't go out there and get sloshy drunk or anything like that. I like to travel and I like to see the ambiance of the crowd. I like to be amongst the crowds, you know, celebrating a new year. I love that. I love being around a lot of multitudes of people. So you can celebrate that the old year is gone and here's to new beginnings or the continuance of something that you built into existence. You know what I mean? So that's usually the time of year where I take off. You know, I take off during New Year's Eve. I'm going to be on call during Christmas, so I'll be off work, but I'll be on call. So, you know, it's always good times, always good times. But I've talked about a lot in this hour. I mean, I can talk for days. I mean, don't get it twisted. I can talk for days, but you know, sometimes it's not always about talking about the worst parts of life, because sometimes we do have some good times as well. It's not always doom and gloom. And we talked about this very early on, a perception of life in which you look at through the world. People always ask me, they're like, well, how come you're always seem happier when things aren't really going your way? And these are the examples I give them. I was humbled in 2018. For 2 weeks, I couldn't walk. I herniated a disc. I couldn't walk. I couldn't lay down to sleep. I slept against the wall, Indian style, for 2 weeks. I'd go to the ERs for medication, stuff like that. The worst feeling in the world, and I don't know if you've experienced it, but the worst feeling in the world is going to an ER in pain and being treated like somebody who's drug seeking. That is a terrible feeling, especially if all you're wanting is something to get rid of the pain. And I would be telling these people, hey, I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, I deal with drug addicts and alcoholics. I don't want something to get high on. I want this pain to go away. It hurts. You know what I mean? See, April, I'm glad you can relate to that, because they treat you like a drug seeker. And, for 2 weeks, I wasn't able to walk. Slowly, I went to a chiropractor. He fixed me right up. Got everything working. Gave me some advice. Didn't really need the medication after a while. And, another thing that's really humbled me about life is watching those loved ones pass away. They're here one day and gone the next. When you get up in age, you really do understand that life is short. And it's too short to carry on grudges. It's too short to have arguments about trivial things. When I first started my channel, if you look back on some of the earlier ones, I wasn't always friendly to people because they would treat my channel with disrespect. And I've even went after people that, whether they deserved it, whether they didn't. But I look back at that and I'm like, God, why did I do that? That's not really who I am. But a lot of times people perceive grace with weakness, like I said a while ago. And if you don't do anything, you don't say anything, then you're weak. You're not really bad about it. But you know what? I don't care anymore. I really don't about the YouTube streets. And I've told people countless times, I'm happy when anybody decides to come spend a live with me. I really am. I really am. Well, tell her happy birthday, PKC. Tell your daughter happy birthday from the fam. Because you know what? Just like I said, I don't know whether you had a tough time with her gifts, but it must be tough to have a birthday that close to Christmas. Did you celebrate her birthday, or did you wait till Christmas? Because I know a lot of kids that like, man, I'd rather have a big Christmas and just kind of overlook my birthday. But there's some families that are able to do both, and that's a wonderful thing. One thing that I had to get over in life is being envious. Because envy is an awful thing to carry around. It really is. If you're envious of anything, you've already crippled yourself. Because you don't know how hard somebody else is either having it to get that, or how hard they've worked to attain that. And I know that many people think that I hardly do research or whatever they might think about my channel. But you know what? It's hard to run this channel. It was really hard. Because you not only have to research, you have to be on point with what you say as far as the way I look at it. I didn't want to just get on here and spew just anything. I wanted to be as, like I said, as close to what I was learning in school than just to be talking about what I thought I knew. You know what I mean? But regardless of all that, it's given me a good platform. I've met a bunch of people, close to some people that I do call friends. And there were some people that I called friend that no longer even call me friend. And that's terrible to think about, that, you know, people can cut you out of their lives that quickly. It tells you a lot about them. But really quick before I close this out, in the chat, what do y'all eat for Thanksgiving? I know here in Texas, we eat brisket, or at least we try to eat brisket. We try to eat tamales. We eat that kind of food. I've never been a turkey type person. I don't even really like turkey. I don't know if y'all like it, but I've never liked turkey. I'll eat a turkey slice, you know, but as far as eating the bird, like chopped up, not enough flavor. I'd rather have a brisket, a steak, or something like that. Prime rib and sides and appetizers. There you go. There you go. But we had brisket, sausage, ham, and turkey slices, and all the rest for our Christmas party. My boss hooked us up, and it was delicious, you know. So the turkey stuff just doesn't really, it's never really appealed to me. But I hope that you get something out of this live. Like I said, got the new camera, thought I'd give it a shot. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to be using this kind of mode from here on out because I like that rather than having my face in a square. Here's the answer. We used to try to do parties for our birthday, but it was too hard getting people to show up. Too many are too busy. That 100%. 100%. 100%. I hope y'all have enjoyed spending time with the channel, spending time with me. You guys stay safe out there, and I don't think I'm going to come back for the third time. But I will be back a lot more during the holidays, especially during Christmas, because I'll be out looking for true crime to cover, things like that. Y'all have a wonderful night. Take care of each other and stay safe. And don't listen to the madness, but listen to your own heart. Maestro, cue that music. Till next time, my name is 12 Gauge, and this is 12 Gauge Investigative.
Wake up to a war before my feet hit the floor. Mind full of noise, heart tired of keeping score. Bills on the table, hope under the bed. I shake hands with fear, every word that I said. Life throwing punches I never could block. Clock keeps ticking, but I'm frozen in shock. Smiles in public, storms when I'm home. Surrounded by people, but dying alone. I carry my past like a loaded gun. Every regret says you're not the one. I try to run, but the shadows stick. Every road feels narrow, every choice feels quick. I've been fighting battles nobody sees. Depression digs trenches inside of me. Life don't play fair, it just lowers the dice. Demons talk loud, whisper suicide. And the hardest fight I ever had is staring back at me in the mirror's glass. I argue with ghosts, I can't run. Hold versions of me saying look what you've done. Promises broken, dreams half built. Carry the weight, carry the guilt. Some days I'm strong, some days I fold. Some nights the dark feels 10 feet cold. I tell myself just make it through, but the voice in my head says what's the use? I learned how to bleed without showing scars, how to laugh while falling apart. I fake the light when the room feels dead, say I'm fine with the war in my head. I've been fighting battles nobody sees. Depression digs trenches inside of me. Life don't play fair, it just loads the dice. Demons talk loud, whisper suicide. And the hardest fight I ever had is staring back at me in the mirror's glass. Mirror says change, I say I'm trying. It says prove it, I say I'm surviving. Some days winning just means I breathe. Some nights courage is staying with me. Still fighting battles nobody sees, but I'm learning pain don't get the keys. Life knocked me down, yeah, more than twice, but I'm still here, still paying the price. And if I fall standing tall, cause I faced that mirror and didn't crawl. This ain't a victory song, it's a truth. A bruised up heart still chasing proof. If you're fighting too, you're not alone. We all go to war when we make it home.